Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, and this is your antidote to Popular Talk Radio. Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. This program is just about that. Good morning, everyone. This is Joe Cristiano. Welcome to Liberty Talk Radio. Excuse me if you do not recognize my voice. Neither do I. I have this lingering, whatever you want to call it, virus, cold, or whatever, and decided to broadcast anyway. I think very selfishly I am here because of the pent-up frustration I have, not so much with our illustrious federal government, but with the population at hand. Where we have come from as a people, where we are, and where I see that we are going. Or you can project where we are going. Now, you know where I'm going with this, don't you? In fact, I walked into the studio just about 15 minutes ago and sat down, and there was a book about the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, and there was a picture of it, and you saw these two kids on top of an old crickety car filled with personal belongings crossing the Dust Bowl. And it reminds you of the pioneering spirit of the American people. People admired Americans for two reasons. First of all, Americans were from another country. We were not born here. For the most part, we came here from Czechoslovakia, Romania, Italy, Ireland, Japan, every place in the world. And people admired the fact that these people, some of whom came from their own country, had the gall, the guts, the gumption to leave their country in search of freedom. And they see what people had done, what they sacrificed for their own freedom. We were admired around the world. Now, we were not particularly admired by some communist regimes, the Nazis, for example, but the people who lived there would have died, folks, would have died to have what we had. That's what America is. America is a place where people can exercise their freedom. They have the right to fail. They are to experience failure. They are to muster up everything within them to overcome that failure without any intervention from anyone, save maybe help from other people, from the family or friends who shared a common goal. This was unprecedented, folks. Absolutely unprecedented. In any other country, if people attempted to do this, there would be border guards. There would be bandits out to kill them, take all their worldly possessions, never to be heard from again. But us, we got in wagons and rickety old cars, crossed the desert, risked our lives for that glimmer of hope, of freedom. People around the world, there was not one country in the world that did not admire us. And the only negative thing around the world was the regret of those people who did not participate. This was new to the world. And we were at the forefront. Today, folks, that pioneering spirit, that American spirit, that true Americanism, that true individualism, that desire for individual achievement, all of that, folks, is dead. Now, instead of admiration, you can read the English version of Pravda. And they will have commentary on where this country is going, how idiotic we are for allowing our government to allow us to slip down that slope of socialism, communism, corporatism. They talk about this, not in our papers. No, in our papers. No, we talk about how free we are and how the government is doing so well and helping us and we're doing this as it's a team effort. And we let no one suffer, no one fail. Because there's always a politician out there willing to give someone money, prop them up, and give them this false sense of success. We don't write about that, folks. No. But Pravda does. Pravda knows where we're going. Pravda sees the idiocy of it. A communist country and a communist newspaper telling us we're crazy for doing what we're doing. I met a gentleman just this past week whose son went to school in St. Petersburg. And he said, it is amazing how vocal the Russian people are. He said, that was surprising. He loved it there, by the way. He said, because the people spoke their mind. Oh, yeah, they can get in trouble, probably more so here than here. But if they didn't like what Putin did, they spoke out. They felt like they had more freedom than we did. But they spoke intelligently. They spoke about the facts. They spoke about the effects of what government regulation does to the people. This is what we are supposed to be talking about. Oh, but not us, folks. No, not us. All we want to talk about is when are they going to enact more legislation to help us even more, because we have a consoler in chief now, a person who's going to take care of us. As the rest of the world becomes smarter, more educated, more aware of what we should be doing, we are becoming a bunch of zombies. We just sit here and take it and just wait for the next government gift. I'll be honest, I'm not saying this just to be dramatic or anything on radio. This has been, emotionally, one of the worst weeks of my life. I had difficulty even deciding, what am I going to talk about? What difference does it make? No matter what subject I picked, it didn't make any difference. So what? What difference does it make what subject I'm talking about? If the country is going down the tubes and we applaud that, why am I wasting my time and why are you wasting your time listening? You see, folks, it's not the government that's bad. It's not the government that I'm vilifying. It's the people. It's the mentality of the people. I don't want to live under this cloud. I don't want to sit in a restaurant or go to a coffee shop and be concerned that if I say something like what I'm saying now, people will be like, oh, he's a crazy man. I almost want out. I want to opt out. And every time the government has this opportunity, I mean, any incident that occurs, and there's an opportunity, boy, do they go for it, and we get dumber and dumber and dumber. Now, I'm not saying people are dumb and I'm smart. Don't get me wrong. Don't go there, please. It's just that enough people are not aware. If they would just wake up. I can't tell you how many people that I speak to say, there's not enough people awake. They use the word awake. What a word. I've never heard that term before, people being awake. The only time I heard, are you awake, is when you get up in the morning. I sleep, I'm awake, I go to work. That's the way I use that word. But in the past 6 months, I hear that term all the time. People are not awake. In other words, folks, listen carefully. People are functioning. They are up. They're out of bed. But they're not awake. What does that make them? It makes them a zombie. You know, I always thought zombie was just a science fiction thing. What I have learned is that the government has experimented with drugs that actually kills the mind. It's sort of like a mad cow disease where the brain turns to mush, but the muscular function, some of the muscular function is still there. In fact, with mad cow disease, the cow is dead. I mean, functionally dead. And there is a fear. I got this on National Geographic, and they were talking about the scientific channel. And the concern is that these type of experiments, if leaked out, and one person got affected, we could infect the entire planet, and we wouldn't be able to stop it. And people would, in fact, look like the zombies you see on those television on the shows. But I contend we don't need that disease. We don't need the human form of mad cow disease. We have been infected already by government propaganda and laziness and television. And I'm ranting on, I know. They say, Joe, will you say something? Quite frankly, there is no more to be said. Let's stop for a break. I need a call. Folks, 855-866-1170. That's 855-866-1170. I am losing my voice. You would do me a favor if you would call in and tell me just Merry Christmas. I don't care. Just give me a little bit of a break. 855-866-1170. Of course, your comments anytime to comments@libertytalkradio.com. And don't forget that special guy who has just about everything in life. You know, you don't know what to get that person. A certificate at L&L Machine Guns. Man, that's a blast. You should go over there and do that. Go see my friends at L&L Machine Guns and get a certificate. I think that's going to run out by the end of the year. And, of course, food is our greatest dependency. If you like what you hear on Liberty Talk Radio and you like what we're doing, you support the program and get your family prepared. Be prepared, folks. Like we tell the kids in the Boy Scouts, be prepared. We have to be prepared. Go to libertytalk.mygofoods.com, libertytalk.mygofoods.com, and be prepared. Folks, let's see, we have any call. We have a couple of calls on the line now. Let's take a caller. Thank you. Let's see. Lloyd, you're on the air. Thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ.
Yeah, Joe, I'd like to get you out of a bind with your voice there just a little bit and talk a little while. They were talking about this physical cliff going on, and I see it, just as a kind of a fraud, because both sides are dealing with a problem that's just like a bug on the windshield. We have a much bigger problem. They're focused on the bug on the windshield instead of looking at the fact that they've crossed into the wrong lane of traffic.
Good point. I like that. Yeah, Lloyd, like that.
Well, I mean, and it's going to take a child to be able to see what the problem is, because, again, another little analogy is kind of like, you see, one side we're trying to lift a heavy object with a lead balloon, and one side is saying, let's put a bunch of helium in the balloon and just keep putting more and more helium into the balloon, and pretty soon we'll lift that heavy object. The other side is saying, well, let's just take a little bit of weight off the gondola so that we can get the thing to finally lift.
Right.
But there's no one sitting there pointing at the fact that we're using a lead balloon, and it's going to take a child to recognize the fact that we're using the wrong substance as our monetary base. We have a fiat currency that's a debt-based instrument, and the Fed only issues our currency into existence at interest, and the interest is never issued to us, so we're always going to be in the hole because we have a faulty system.
Excellent point. I'm sitting here watching several people in the studio, and they're listening to you, and everyone's bobbing their head up and down like a bobbleboard. Yeah. You got a lot of fans over here. What do you think we should do then, Lloyd?
Well, I've got a bumper sticker on my pickup that says "In the Fed."
Ah, okay, I'm with you. Okay.
But
everyone's clapping here in the studio. Okay, you got a lot of fans here, Lloyd, today.
Well, we have a system, a monetary system, and until people are so focused on the debt, how much, the $16 trillion and this kind of thing, but we're always borrowing more money than there is money in existence.
That's correct.
I mean, our M2 money supply is sitting around 10.25 trillion, I think. Yet we owe $16 trillion.
Right.
Now, I don't know how you pay off $16 trillion with $10.25 trillion. It's if you saw this game in a carnival, you would recognize what it is.
Right.
But
exactly.
The Fed chairman and these guys are dressed in nice suits and talk all distinguished and everything. But I liken it to a little pegboard game where you have 10 holes and you're given 9 pegs to put in the holes. And the only way you can fill up that 10th hole is to borrow our money into existence, borrow another block of wood with 10 holes and 9 more pegs. It's not a winnable game. And yet all the congressmen, the Republicans, the Democrats, both are up there pretending that they can by either borrowing more money to get more pegs to fill up holes or by somehow reducing it. And the fact that our Ponzi scheme of monetary system and our government is an unwinnable game. They're just going along with the game because our economy will collapse as soon as we do cut spending.
Absolutely, Lloyd. And unfortunately, we've all the population has become zombies. So when they hear you talk, and they think that you're some sort of wacko, and that's the big problem. How do we re-educate them? By the way, Lloyd, where are you calling from?
Henrietta.
Henrietta. Okay, very good. Well, Lloyd, send me an email to comments@libertytalkradio.com with a mailing address and a T-shirt size. I want to send you a nice Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt for giving me a break today. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Hold on a second, please. What? Yeah, and you call back anytime. Okay?
Alrighty.
All right. Thank you so much, Lloyd. Appreciate your call. All righty. On our call, we have William. William, thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. What's on your mind this morning?
Well, good morning, Joe. I tell you, I lived in Texas here for many years. Programs like yours and talk radio are turning the tide. I know at times we all kind of become discouraged, but let me tell you, you keep up what you're doing, I have never seen so many people in Texas so awake, so talking, so listening to talk radio, and so concerned. So thank you, man. Listen to you. Keep up the great works. It's really doing good.
If you're in Texas, I used to live in Texas. I'm a real Texas fan. I was down there visiting some friends about 6 months ago when a pickup truck passed by and had the little Texas flag on the sticker on the back, and it said secede. When he passed by, and I raised my hand out the window with my fist, and he did the same. Hallelujah. And people think that's wacko talk. People understand that's American talk.
Well, that's exactly right. And I tell you, people are waking up, and talk radio is a major force in America right now, and it's not going to be stopped either.
Well, I tell you, that's really encouraging. We need more voices. We need more voices like you. And Lloyd, William, rather, do me a favor. Just send me an email with your email address. I'll send you a T-shirt size, and and if you need more than one, tell me what size. And and have your friends listen in and call in, okay?
All right, great.
We got to go for
work.
We got to go for a break. Thank you so much for calling in, folks. Thanks for hanging in there. This is Joe Cristiano. You listen to Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to around the world. I guess. I mean, this is our reach is that far. Folks. I just want to make mention before we take some. We have other callers on the line, but if they would just hold on for a second, please. The last caller, made a point. You have to understand with the Fed is that the Fed prints our money and then gives us our money at interest rate. Think about this. And then we have to pay them back. Well, how do you pay them back money when they're charging you interest? That means you have to borrow more money from the Fed to pay them back the principal plus the interest. It's a never-ending game, folks. This is a scam perpetrated on the American public, and it's always been that way. People have been screaming out. Ron Paul has screamed about that, and something must have happened halfway or three-quarters of the way through that campaign because he was gaining a lot of steam, and who knows what happened, whether or not there were threats or whatever, but things got real cool for after a while. You don't screw with the Fed, and if you don't believe me, the only president that stood up to the Federal Reserve was John F. Kennedy. He wrote an executive order, and a couple of weeks later, zap. You don't screw with the Fed. That's the ultimate. That's the money changers of this world. They have allegiance to no one. And I think everyone in Congress knows that, and they fear the Fed. They don't respect the Fed. They fear the Fed. They fear the Fed, and the government fears the people. Because they know people are starting to get antsy. And that's why they need these situations like what happened in Newtown, Connecticut. They need instances like that. So they can prey on our emotions and say, well, this is why guns are so bad. Just listen to this. I think we have a call. Hold for a second. Here we have, just listen to the idiocy of this. Here we have a young man who has been mentally unstable for years and years, who steals guns, and uses that to break into a school that is not defended. I mean, it is not guarded to kill people. And our answer is take the guns away from innocent people. And we say, oh, good, the government is finally doing something. Just think of the idiocy behind that. You have government agencies who are supposed to be monitoring people that are wacko like this kid was. And yet did nothing. They ignored him. His parents had guns. His mother had guns. He stole the guns. He didn't go out and buy them. Then he went to a school with kids. And like I told you last week, I went to go get a building permit. I mean, I was searched. I had a badge and everything. You name it. I mean, it was like I was walking in a Pentagon for a building permit. But yet a school? No problem. And the answer to all of our problems is restrict certain Glock guns. Now, have we gone totally insane? No, we've become zombies, and then we go, that's what the government wants to do. It must be the right thing. That's what we have to do. That's how dumb we've become. All right, let's take our caller. Caller, you're on the air. Thank you for calling 1170 KFAQ.
Andy Sutton, how you doing?
Andy, is that you? Yes, Andy Sutton. Is this Andy Sutton?
It is.
Folks, let me give you a little introduction. Folks, this is Andy Sutton. He's an economist and chief investment strategist, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. He's on my program, on my internet program, the third Wednesday of every month. And if you ever want to know something about economics in plain English, he's the man to go see. Go to his website, Sutton, SUTTON -associates.net. He's my man. This is where I learned what's going on in the economics world. Andy, what's on your mind this morning?
Well, I don't know. You ran it for about 5 minutes, and I ran out of pencil lead trying to keep up with making some notes here of things to respond to say to you. But let's just start with the Federal Reserve. You're absolutely right, and I didn't get a chance to hear your caller earlier, but you guys are right on the money. I mean, this is the way it works. When that first dollar bill, that Federal Reserve note, was put into circulation, it came with a price. It came with interest, and that means you need a second dollar so you can pay the interest on the first, and a third so you can pay the interest on the second, and it's a multiplier effect, and this is what we're seeing. You look at the national debt curves, you look at the money supply curves, you look at, they're all parabolic, and that's because of this. It's very simple, and what really cracks me up, and this was something else you kind of alluded to, is when Bernanke or Greenspan goes before Congress and they ask their questions, and Bernanke sits there, and he's the most arrogant, I think, of the bunch, and he sits there and they ask him something and he says, "No, I'm not going to tell you that. Where's the handcuffs?"
That's right. Yeah, we're right.
You know, if you and I, if Roger Clemens, now think about this, if Roger Clemens goes in there, for the steroid thing, right? They're worried about steroids. They're not worried about school shootings or the fiscal cliff which they constructed. I think that's what they used all that stimulus money for. They built that cliff. Anyway, if Roger Clemens goes in there and stonewalls like that, he gets hammered with an obstruction of justice charge. What about Bernanke? You're right. They are scared to death of that institution. You don't mess with the Fed.
Right.
You're absolutely right. And kudos to your caller for pointing that out.
Well, Andy, where do you think, just let me ask you a quick question, and then I'll let you go. I know you're probably busy this morning. Where are we going with this fiscal cliff crap?
Look, this is a folly show, and I've called it that in some of my pieces. This is manufactured. It was manufactured last year when they came up with the last debt ceiling agreement. And, now in all the talk, the rhetoric now is shifting towards, well, we're not going to get a big deal, so let's get another small deal. So you and I can read between the lines, and everybody else can, and see that this is going to be one of those, all right, let's just make a Band-Aid. We'll make a little one, and it'll fix it for another year, and then we can have this fight all over again. And we can scare the daylights out of everybody and threaten sequestration and furloughing for federal employees, two things that are never going to get touched: foreign aid and defense.
Right.
Pentagon. They will not touch those areas. Those are sacred. It's kind of like the Fed.
Right.
Those areas are sacred. You might see some domestic programs get cut. The highways might crumble. Schools might crumble. Situations like that. But there are certain things that are sacrosanct in the government that are not going to be touched. But the important thing for people, I think, to understand about this fiscal cliff is that this was created by our government. This was not a natural thing. I mean, yes, the debt ceiling, that's becoming a big problem. People are very aware of that. It is going to slam the door on us one of these days. That in itself is not the cliff, though. The cliff is these cuts in government spending that are happening because of this man-made agreement that happened. And so instead of cutting in 2011, they said, well, we're going to wait, and if the Super Congress can't agree, then there's going to be automatic cuts, and we have to avert those now. So that's what this cliff is all about, and that's like the real watered-down nickel version.
Right.
But basically, it's a fear-mongering tactic. They're trying to scare people. Don't be. This is on the politicians. This is not an economics thing. It's not so much a financial thing. I mean, yeah, we're spending too much money. We knew that. We knew that 10 years ago. We knew it 5 years ago. This is not a big secret. So, this whole idea of the world's going to end. Oh, by the way, we're still here. If they don't resolve this fiscal cliff thing, that's just nonsense. I mean, the bottom line is going forward, we're going to have to make adjustments. Nobody wants to do it. There's no political backbone to stand up to the gimme gang that's getting all the freebies and say, hey, guess what? The party's over. You guys are going to get a job. There are jobs, a few, not many. There are some jobs. You guys are going to have to do them. Otherwise, you're not going to get any of these assistance programs. Get these illegals out of here. Get our people back to work doing the jobs that Bush said, I think it was. Americans don't want to do these jobs, and they're doing these jobs. Well, guess what? We need to start doing our own jobs.
Right.
That's just my rant.
Thanks. Andy, are you still putting out that you put out that newsletter on My 2 Cents? Is that available to the public, to non-economic people like me?
Yeah, sure. You just go to the website, www.sutton-associates.net. You can sign up for that for free.
Wow.
And
okay.
It comes out about every 2 weeks. And, I talk about this kind of stuff and anything that's pressing, and occasionally just do, something off the wall. But, it's absolutely free of charge. People can sign up. I don't spam you. I don't sell your email address to, newsletter mills or anything like that. It's between you and me.
Okay. Andy, thanks a million for calling in. You saved my voice. You gave me a little break, and I appreciate that. And your comments. Thank you very much for your comments. I mean, my audience is better for it, I appreciate it. And, folks, you do go to Sutton-Associates, sign up for his newsletter. Believe me, you will love it. He's one of the best writers best economic writers there are. Andy, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, Joe.
Take
Happy
care.
holidays to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye. Same to you. Folks, I can't stress enough that, we need to become more educated and listen to people who have your best interests at heart and don't have some sort of agenda. Andy has no agenda. But he sees everything from an economic point of view, and he will make you see everything a lot more clear. So other things that you question will then come in focus, and that's the important thing. What really, folks, let me hear from you. 855-866-1170. We still have plenty of time. 855-866-1170. I want to hear your opinion about what is going on. All right? And your email to comments@libertytalkradio.com. When there is news, news is news. Something happens, the news reports it. Would anyone disagree with that? I don't hear any disagreement. I assume that's correct. But what happens when something happens and the news reports it? Then they report it again. Then they report it again. Well, after a while, it becomes a human interest story. Sort of something that you have nothing better to do with your mind. It's a mindless thing to do. You sit down and you sort of watch a particular incident evolve, and it's a human interest story. But what happens when they report it again and again and again? You see what I mean? I mean, infinitum. It goes from news to human interest to indoctrination. This is where we should be turning our televisions off. Stop watching the stupid boob tube. It is taking too much of your time, absorbing too much of you. It is changing even when you don't think so. It is molding the way you think. It's important for you and your family, your friends, your community, your neighborhood, to turn off that stupid television. Because the government owns the stations, and they are using that. They are using it for indoctrination purposes. They don't need to get kids in a classroom anymore. They just do it on television. Can we take another break here? Folks, you're back, Liberty Talk Radio. We have a couple of more callers here. let's get a couple. We'll take a couple of more callers and make it short and see what they have to say. Monty, you're on the air. Thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. What's on your mind this morning?
Thank you, Joe. I just wanted to thank you for the job you're doing on radio there. I mean, you really have a way of communicating and doing something as much needed to, waking people up for one thing, to what's going on. And I just really want to thank you and appreciate what you're doing.
Well, I particularly appreciate that call because, Monty, I mean it. You feel very lonely when you think this way. And sometimes you think you're the only nutcake in the world doing this, and it's scary sometimes. So I really appreciate your call. And for that, you send me an email to comments@libertytalkradio.com with a mailing address and a T-shirt size. I'd love to send you a T-shirt, a Liberty Talk Radio T-shirt. And, Monty, where you calling from?
Here in Tulsa.
Okay, very good. You'll be a walking billboard for me, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you so much for calling, and get all your friends to chip in, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you, Monty. Bye-bye now. Okay, Billy, you're on the air. Thank you for calling Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. What's on your mind this morning? Billy.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, Billy, you on there?
Oh, Joe.
Yeah, good morning.
Joe, this is Billy calling from Bartlesville. How are you this morning?
Okay, Billy, what's on your mind this morning?
Okay. Joe, things that you're saying made me think of an email I read yesterday from Simon Black, who publishes a free newsletter, Sovereign Man, and he was speaking of the same things, how fed up he is that the American people, how indoctrinated we are from birth to believe that our country is the best, that we're the highest pinnacle of civilization, that we just have been subjected to decades of propaganda that have clouded our judgment. And this propaganda is so effective that people are willing to give up their freedoms. They're allowing their freedoms to be taken away just so that the ruling elite have more control, and they don't even realize it. Whether it's please bathe us in radiation to protect us from terrorists, or
right.
Please conjure up infinite amount of money to help protect us from banking failures. Or, of course, now the last week, all we've heard is, please disarm the population to protect us from these psycho killers.
Right.
And just every time this happens, our society just seems to lose the capacity for even any intelligent discourse. You even suggest that you don't agree with these positions. There just is no debate over these policy, and almost any dissent is branded as unpatriotic and disloyal.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we become more and more un-American and more disliked, or we get more sympathy from people around the world saying, "What the heck happened to America?" Hey, thanks a lot for calling, Billy. Hey, listen, send me an email to comments@libertytalkradio.com. I'd like to send you a T-shirt, okay? Send me your a mailing address with T-shirt size. I'm losing my voice. Thanks for calling in, okay?
Joe, keep up the good work. You're not alone.
Okay, thank you. I needed that. Oh, boy. Folks, those are nice calls. I really enjoyed it. Listen to this, folks. NPR, and I used to give very healthy to NPR. They don't get a dime from me anymore, by the way. They mentioned on the radio the other day that now Americans are approving restricting gun ownership over the rights that we have of the Second Amendment. Now, why don't they say something? Why don't they say something about? No, they just drop that and then they go on to something else, like saying that's okay. That's really the right thing to do. Where's the outrage on NPR radio, you bunch of punks? Where the heck are you? Decimate the Constitution. It's okay. Because it fulfills this communist agenda that we support. A guy said, this is the argument. And this was told to me. They say, Joe, you're a gun owner. You don't need that many guns. I don't need, first of all, that many guns. Oh, I don't need that many guns. Oh, okay. I said, I agree with you. All right, let's go through with that argument. That's the logic, rather, okay? If I don't need that many guns, why do you drive a Lexus? Why don't you drive a Ford Focus? You don't need that much of a car. By the way, how many bedrooms you have in your home, you and your wife? Oh, you have a 5-bedroom house? You only need 1 bedroom. What are you doing with 5 bedrooms? You don't need 5 bedrooms in your house. And by the way, doesn't your wife collect Hummel statues? She goes, yes. I go, I know so. I said, how many does she have? Well, she has about 30 of them. I said, she doesn't need more than 1. 1 Hummel statue would be fine. What is she doing with 30? She should give the others away to people less fortunate than her. Let's see. And by the way, does your wife own more than 1 or 2 pairs of shoes, like a pair of shoes for work and a pair of shoes for the garden? Well, he laughed and he says, she's got like 30 pairs of shoes. Well, she doesn't need 30 pairs of shoes. 2 pairs would be fine. You know, and you see where I'm going. You don't have to own a home. You can rent. You don't have to go to the coffee shop. You can make your coffee at home. You don't have to have 3 children. You can have 1, or maybe better, none. For a numbnut like you, you shouldn't have any children because you're spreading idiocy, you jerk. You know, and you go on and on. By the way, you're having dessert. You're fat enough. You don't need dessert. You know, you watch television. You got a 60-inch, no, 12-inch would be just fine because you're an idiot anyhow. You don't have to become more of an idiot by watching that stupid thing. You see, folks, the arguments are specious arguments. They make no sense, but we become zombies and we buy all that crap, you know. And listen, here's a guy who goes in, kills people. We blame guns. I know guns. Guns don't kill people. It's the system that kills people, and the government loves the system and is making it worse. Be careful of that. Be careful. Be mindful of everything that people say. Folks, thank you for listening to my rant today on Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. Is this the end of today's program? Let's take it away. Thank you very much for listening to Liberty Talk Radio, folks. See you next week.